Greetings, friends. Today I want to talk to you about understanding the scriptures through the Christological lens of love. Dr. C. Baxter Kruger says, the true hermeneutic is the light of the world. So when we interpret scripture, we have to interpret scripture through the light of the world, because Jesus is the light of the world. That's what he told us in John 8, verse 12. Now we go back to the very foundation, the very building block, the very structure for which we understand God and understand the scriptures is based on the fact that God is love. 1 John 4:8, 1 John 4:16, God is love. So, understanding the scriptures must be based on that very foundation. The foundation that tells us that God is love. If we do not base the scriptures, if we do not base our understanding of the scriptures on the fact that God is love, then we're going to come up with many false ideas about God. And that is the problem with the interpretation that we see of many biblical teachers and people that preach from the Bible. We see these false interpretations, these false ideas about God. So when we look at holiness, the subject of holiness, we have to understand holiness based on the foundation that God is love, through the Christological lens of love. Otherwise, we're going to come up with a false idea about holiness. The same goes for judgment. When we look at the subject of judgment, God's judgment, we must base judgment on the Christological lens of love. We must see judgment through the Christological lens of love, that God is love. And what about God's wrath? When we interpret God's wrath, when we try to understand God's wrath, again, we must understand, we must interpret, we must come up with our understanding of God's wrath based on the fact that God is love. God is love is the foundation for understanding the scriptures, because God is love. Now, there's not another God, as you've heard me say. There's no other God but the God revealed in Jesus Christ. There's not another God hiding behind Jesus. Jesus reveals the Father. He came to reveal the Father. He said, I and the Father are one, John 10:30. He said, he who has seen me has seen the Father, John 14:9, I believe it is. So God has always existed in other-centered love. We do not interpret God through the scriptures. God interprets the scriptures for us through the Christological lens of love. Brothers and sisters, when it comes to understanding the scriptures, we must understand them through the very foundation of love. We must interpret the scriptures through the Christological lens of love, because God is love. I love you all. Have a wonderful day.